It seems like it's almost counterintuitive, business and then what you stand for as a human.
Sitting in an office in front of a computer, like that's the killer. If there was an aspect of business that was the hardest for me, it was that. Busy as a trap. Like, oh, how have you been? I've been busy. And I shit, everyone's busy. Is that what you want to be doing? Because you can be a hamster on a wheel just doing, because if you don't do, then you don't have value. And so I detoxed that deeply by moving out to our farm. You know, just getting there and going like, it's okay to be.
This is Peter Daniel, co-founder of Soaring Free Superfoods. If you visited a health shop in the last, decade, I can almost guarantee you've purchased one of their products before. In this episode, you'll learn how he and his wife turned their passion for nutrition into a thriving business, and at the same time mastered the art of balancing entrepreneurship with personal growth. If you like this sort of content and want to see me interview more successful entrepreneurs from around the world, remember to hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Man, what's that thing that men sometimes drink that gives you like a boost in libido?
Maca.
Maca, yes.
Yeah, maca root.
That's what I thought.
It's one of our products, yeah.
Yes.
I was talking about matcha.
Matcha. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay,
yeah.
So there's matcha in it.
Matcha.
And what else?
Mushrooms, matcha, coconut cream. I put a bit of monk fruit in for sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then my extract of rooiwortel, balbei natalensis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's quite a lot of stuff. Do you drink this every day?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Instead of coffee, this is what I have. Well, if I feel like coffee, I'll do half coffee, half this. Yeah, I've never really been a great coffee drinker.
Yeah. Like
when I was a teenager, I went to wherever to get endless cups of bottomless coffee, but then I crashed hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been drinking this like your whole life, basically.
Yeah, stimulants. I don't really do stimulants.
Yeah.
I tend to have enough energy,
So how old are you now?
44.
You're 44 years old.
Yeah.
I first started using your products when I think I must have been 19 years old.
Okay.
So after matric, I was getting into like a health phase. Went to Wellness Warehouse and found your stuff. I think it was your goji berries that I first tried.
Yeah.
And the cacao nibs. And I used to put that on my like breakfast, sprinkle it on top, make a concoction. But it's so crazy to me to be sitting across from you now. And it's been so many years. What is that, like 11 years? So how old were you when you started Soaring Free Superfoods?
25, 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty young. What were you doing before you started this business?
My wife, Beryn, and I got married early, 22, met at 19. And pretty much straight after we got married, we moved to England.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked there for a friend of ours who had a business in South Africa making portable massage couches. So he would send us container loads of the stuff, and I'd drive around to all the beauty salons and schools all over England and demo the stuff. And we do a lot of trade shows, beauty shows and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that for 3 years and then left that and did some traveling around South America and then got into food and nutrition. First trained as chalet chefs, worked in the Alps for a bit,
mm-hmm.
catering for 4-star chalet, catering, cleaning toilets, the whole deal. And then from that got very into self-development work, apprenticed one of our teachers for 2 years doing courses and workshops, presenting workshops, courses. That's where I got over my fear of public speaking. And in that time I also then discovered the raw food movement and got into nutrition through Tony Robbins.
Okay.
Went on his UPW.
Yes.
Unleash Power Within, and on the 4th day of that event, they get into nutrition for the whole day. And, I thought I knew quite a bit about nutrition until I went to that. And then I was like, there was an epiphany moment at the end of that. I remember Beryn missed that day because she went to pick up a friend of ours from the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And when she came to fetch me in the evening, we drove all the way around the M25 to the north because it was at Excel Docklands. And I just didn't stop. I was going crazy, like hit a note in me. If this is true, everyone needs to know. And that really ignited the fire in me of sharing what's actually going on with food and nutrition. And then we just found a whole bunch of different teachers in nutrition around England. And that started our nutrition journey.
At this time, was there anything in South Africa?
When we first arrived back, there was one guy bringing goji berries in. He was in Joburg. Yeah.
Why only goji berries?
I don't know. He just called himself Goji King, and that's what he did.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
So his brand was Goji King.
That was it, goji berries. So
Yeah.
so yeah, we started with gojis too.
Oh, interesting.
But when we were in the UK, just before we moved back here, I already started getting into superfoods. I had a little web shop there. I mean, this is early. Web shops were hardly even known about here. So I'd done some online marketing training there, and we had a little website in England, drop shipping superfoods. So I had some contacts already. So moving back here, we had sources. Yeah, that's how I initially got inspired, you know.
Okay.
We came back here. We didn't even come back here to start selling superfoods. When we moved back to South Africa, it was to run workshops and courses on nutrition, because we just gone through our raw food journey, transitioning from cooked to raw. And we were feeling like tons of energy, sleeping 4 hours a night and just like working on multiple websites and writing stuff down. And Beryn and I downloaded a whole nutrition course at the Dead Sea. We spent a week there, and we just wanted to run courses. So the first course we did was to our friends, like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., fed them way too much food, way too much information, but everyone loved it. And then it was only, I think, 3 or 4 months later that we got a stall at the biscuit mill at that market to be able to sell superfoods. But our first trading was actually at a trance party. There was a trance party in Takai. I'm an old trance party fan. And I had a little stall there. We were doing wheatgrass shots and sushi wraps, nori sushi wraps and smoothies, and trying to keep people healthy.
But why going down this health path? Did anything happen to you or family member that sparked that deep interest?
I think my initial interest into health came from Beryn, my wife. She lost her dad when she was 18, 17 to cancer. And he had a 10-year journey in cancer, and they looked at a lot of nutritional stuff. He went to some of the early stage type hydros, cleansing things. But I mean, you don't have the internet back there, so there was limited information. So she already knew something about nutrition. So we would just eat healthier. But my nutrition really came about from personal development. You know, we early on attended every course we could, workshop. So I was always looking to find an edge in myself to improve. And then when I've discovered nutrition through Tony's course, I was like, this is the key. Because, you know, if you haven't got yourself right nutritionally, like nothing's going to work right. So it just made sense to me. Yeah, and then I went to a workshop with Dr. Brian Clement in England, who runs the Hippocrates Institute in America, in Florida. And that was like mind blowing. This guy was in his 60s. He didn't look older than 40. And he just had such like gravitas and power. And I was like, what is this dude doing?
What was he doing?
Yeah, well, he was mostly raw. Yeah, so raw means no cooking.
No cooking.
Yeah, so everything below 45 degrees Celsius, processed and vegan.
Why is it a problem to cook the food?
So you start losing nutritional value, basically. Life force initially. All the Curlian images show that when you heat food, you lose all the electromagnetic energy, and then physical energy starts to drop out, like enzymes and vitamins start to break down.
Okay.
So if you eat only cooked food, you're losing like loads of energy in the consumption of that food.
So you got inspired to go down this path, but did you have the idea to start this business, Soaring Free Superfoods, as it is today, from the beginning?
Beryn and I were on a workshop in England. We were assisting on it. And part of that process is a deep process to get into like your own trauma, releasing that trauma, and then finding like a phrase that you can hold in your mind as like the epitome of what you want for yourself. And hers and mine together was Soaring Free. So that name came through early on, and went, well, what is Soaring Free? And then we were in South Africa doing our workshop. We just realized, oh, that's the brand, that's our company, that's the energy of what we want to bring. And we both come from parents who ran their own businesses. Beryn's father was a baker. They ran King Cake in the Party Palace. They started it. And my parents were...
King Cake.
Yeah.
Wow, that's back in the day.
Access Park, yeah. And my parents had a business that sold pharmaceutical type stuff, different agencies. I actually worked for them for 2 years coming out of school, driving around being a sales rep. Yeah, so there was never any training. Neither of us trained in business.
Did you study?
No. Well, I mean, I did a year of civil and an MCSE course, and then nutrition in various courses, but nothing longer than that.
Right.
Wow.
Take me through the events that unfolded, like step by step. How did it start? Soaring Free Superfoods. What was the first thing you guys did?
That trance party. We went along there. We had a little stall. We were like, we're in South Africa, we've got some pounds, we need to make money, what are we going to do? And we just done all this training in the UK, making delicious food raw and using superfood. So we said, let's do something. And
you had your name already.
Soaring Free.
And then what were you selling?
That was wheatgrass, juice shots, and nori sushi wraps and smoothies.
Okay. And from there?
Then we got a gig at the biscuit mill in town. So we got a stall there. I think it was once a week. So we would go and have a pile of goji berries in one basket, and I don't know what were in the baskets, cacao probably. And we would make raw soups and whatever recipes we were making for the weekend.
Yeah.
And we started doing well there. And then a lot of the people who came there had health shops. They were like, can I get some of the stuff? And we were like, no.
You didn't want to sell it to them?
No, my intention was to do online only when we arrived, direct to people. Yeah.
Back then already,
Yeah, I was like, all the middlemen just upped the price radically. It's crazy. So I wanted to sell direct. So we set up a website straight away, and then we quickly realized it wasn't going to work in South Africa. It was too early. Web shopping was like, what?
Yeah.
You can buy stuff online? I'm like, oh shit. So we basically focused on running workshops and courses and selling on our courses and at the market. So for, 7 or 8 years, we did an event almost every weekend. So with our courses and workshops, we probably reached 20, 30,000 people in those first 2 years alone, doing workshops, people coming through 2-day events, evening events, weekend events. And so we very much from the ground up, like educated people about superfoods. No one really knew what they were. So we created our own markets. It didn't exist. There was one guy selling goji berries, but no one knew what they were. So it was very much taking our inspiration in superfoods and what they could do, and then sharing that through an education type process. And that's what created our initial following. And those are the customers that then supported us directly, but also then through stores.
How did these workshops work exactly?
I said the first one was an entire day, but we'd basically just do leaflet drops at health shops and a little bit of online advertising here and there. And then people would sign on, they'd phone us and book on. And, we'd do a weekend, we get a venue, and then we'd have like initially 20, 30 people come. We got a nice break through the Cape Times. They did a 4-week series on us. We were doing 4 evenings over 4 weeks. And the Cape Times thing just took our courses up to like 50, 60 people. And then eventually got to like 100 to 150 people coming to an event. And I would just stand up there and like riff for an entire day on nutritional principles and then make all the food for them. Because, this is the thing, information it's meaningless unless you can do something with it. Then it becomes knowledge. So it was a great combo. It was, here's why this is good. And here you can taste it and you can feel it.
You said earlier that you had a fear of public speaking when you started.
Oh, absolutely. Terrifying.
What exactly were you afraid of?
Standing up in front of people and opening my mouth. I think it's the main fear people have in the world, more than death. Yeah, I was lucky. I'd done a lot of like the personal development type courses where I assisted on them. From the age of 20. And then I'm sitting there, 20-year-old, with a group of like 40 to 50 to 60-year-olds, taking them through processes that are deeply introspective. So you get to see human nature and you get to see everyone's dealing with the same shit, And I suppose some humility through there, and also just some like, it's okay just to say what you need to say. And then just practice, just doing it over and over again until eventually it's like, okay, this is cool. But no, before events, I'd have this big knot in my stomach and I'm like, breathe, it's going to be fine. Because I'm like in my early 20s talking to a room full of like people sometimes twice my age. Felt a bit like I was a charlatan in some way.
Man,
But I was getting the results, and the people would try the stuff and they'd get the results. So it motivated me to keep going.
So at this time, you said like you had to create your market. It didn't even exist.
No.
And so how long would you say that process took? Like when was there a point where you were like, okay, things are picking up now. People understand what we're actually talking about. How long did that take?
It was about 3-4 years. We had a transition from when we were mostly doing courses to mostly running business. Like when the wholesale arm started and we started selling to lots more stores, we just didn't have the time even to go out anymore and do events. So then it was like at the office, managing the business, the beast, as the early days, because business is a creature. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about sourcing. So how did you find the products that you wanted to sell?
So originally, because we'd done a lot of raw food training in England, we had access to suppliers there. and I'd set up a little e-commerce site and had drop shipping rates. So we just chatted to our contacts there, and they sent to South Africa initially. And then over...
British suppliers.
Yeah. And they weren't wholesalers, like they were also retailing. So we realized we needed to get to the source of all of this. Over the first 3-4 years of our business, we would travel. We went to South America. We met the cacao suppliers. We went to China. We met the goji berry suppliers. We went to Europe, met the hemp suppliers. So really just going there and seeing, okay, how's the stuff growing? Who are the people involved? Just having a direct relationship with those people. And those were our initial suppliers that some of them we still have.
These suppliers, are they like the actual farmers that are growing the stuff themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Exactly.
So you went to, where was the cacao being grown?
Cacao in South America and Ecuador.
And that must have been pretty cool, the experience. What was that like?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, they took us to some of their growing areas and we got to eat raw chocolate off the bushes, all the trees, and I just had an amazing time there.
Is it a big difference, would you say, like raw as it is from the tree?
A huge difference.
Really?
Yeah, look, I mean, when it's raw, you open a cacao pod, it's white fruit. The cacao fruit is white and it's sweet, kind of like a lychee. And then inside that, you got the bright purple nut or seed, and it's soft, it's watery. So when you bite into it, there's a little bit of bitterness, sharp bitterness, but it's tempered by the sweetness of the fruit. So to get it to chocolate, they got to ferment it, dry it out, and then it becomes chocolate. So it definitely changes quite a bit.
What about the fruit? What do they do with the fruit part of the cacao?
No, just in the fermentation process, it gets washed off.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't even use it. I've always wanted to bring a product with dried fruit on top of the bean, but it's a microbial nightmare because it's growing in like super wet areas with lots of bacteria, so you can't keep it clean.
So you would go to these suppliers, you met them, you would see what they were growing.
Yeah.
And then what? How does the bean get in the product that we consume today in South Africa?
They open up the fruit, they put them in these wooden crates, and then banana leaves on top, and it ferments for 2-3 days, just in the jungle. In the jungle. And then once it's fermented, it all goes into buckets, and it gets sent up to Quito, where it then gets processed. They wash it and dry it out, low temperature roasted, and then you end up with a bean. And then the bean will get cracked to make nibs, or they will take the bean and they press it like olives to get the fat out, which is the butter. And then the remaining solids, they would powder into cacao powder. And then cacao paste is the bean that has been put through a machine that grinds it for like 3 days, stone grinder, until you end up with like smooth chocolate paste.
So do you guys have like a big warehouse now where you receive all the products to?
I mean, I don't know if it's big. I mean, it's kind of big.
Well,
the stuff's quite concentrated, so I mean, I
yeah,
don't know how many square meters it is, but come visit.
Okay.
The warehouse receives the goods in bulk, and then we have a packaging partner that then packages it into smaller units in our retail packaging. Yeah, I mean, the China one, for example, we traveled to China to the Gobi Desert, and it was like days of traveling to get there. Because I'd heard that if you want to do business with China, you got to know who you're talking to, because they'll just send you rubbish. So we went all the way there and saw the fields and tasted wild goji berries and cultivated goji berries, and saw that they eat it in almost anything. Because in Chinese medicine, goji stimulates digestive juices, so it aids in digestion. We saw the whole thing, and then we got back to South Africa, and it was the first money we ever put down for a big order. It was like, I don't know, a pallet load of goji berries that we ordered. We still borrowed some money from a family member, and like it arrived, and we had a little office in Simonstown, and the stuff arrived. And the minute I opened, I was so excited. I was like, whoa, that doesn't smell right.
Oh no.
Yeah, it stank like mothballs.
That's not good.
Shit, what is going on? So I smelled one box, tried another box, also smells bad. And like other people can pick it up, but like I'm a raw foodist at this point. I'm like super sensitive to smell. Like there's definitely something wrong.
What happened?
They had put it in a container, because it's a split container, with some kind of mothball thing. Yeah. Naphthalene or something, I don't know, yeah. It was just a different order from somebody else. They just mixed it up. And so the whole shipment was contaminated. And the insurance company, luckily we were insured. So we early on had an old businessman come on one of our courses who was like, we were just writing invoices on a piece of paper, invoices, just little slips. And he was like, you need some business coaching. Let me help you out. So he, business accounts, because all the accounts were in my personal name, bank accounts. So he was like, let's open a business account. Let's look at insurance. Let's look at all the stuff that business needs. Let's actually get you a CK number, all that kind of stuff. So we were very, very lucky to have Stan, our angel, initially. So this is why we were insured with our shipping line. And they were like, you've got to send it off for organoleptic testing. It's basically just a guy who smells and tastes for his job.
Okay.
Yeah, so he took him like a week or so to come back and say, yes, there's definitely something wrong with it. And
the insurance said that you need this done before they would pay you. Okay. So it took them a week. It took him a week.
In the meantime, we're dead as a business. Like before we even start, we don't have the money to buy more.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do now? Freak out. Yeah.
So what happened?
We ended up having to drive all of it to that mountain dump near Muizenberg for destruction before they would pay us out. Yeah, and then luckily they paid us out for the shipment. We could order again.
So they need proof that you're actually not just going to use that product.
Yeah.
You have to destroy it, show them. Had people already purchased these products?
We were using the local goji supplier in our own brand initially, and a little bit that we were getting from England, but it was very expensive by air freight. And so this was our first step to, okay, we're going to import our own by sea freight, which makes the margins much better. I mean, air freighting is 10 times the price. Yeah. So that was like an initial welcome to business.
Man, that is quite a rocky start, to say the least.
Yeah, we had this tiny little office with 3 little rooms, and the goji berries only just fitted in that office all over the walls. And back then I would design all the packaging myself on Corel Draw on Windows and send it off to a printer we found. It was like, this is not a design ready file. I'm like, just deal with it. I mean, I'm not just, trained designer. I just learned how to use a design program. So initially it was all us, Beryn and I. Formidable team, but we did it all.
Did everything.
Yeah, sunrise to sunset.
But the insurance ended up paying it. You got the new supply. And what did you tell the people who had already ordered?
The truth. Yeah, sorry. And this is a business thing of ours too.
Yeah.
If we have issues, we're just transparent about it.
Yeah.
This is what happened. Sorry. You'll have to wait.
So they waited. You got your new supply, and then what happened? You managed to. It was the correct one this time.
Yes, delicious, amazing, and then from there slowly started bringing in more stuff. Yeah. Basically, it's business. It's like life. There's always shit that's going to go down, always, and your capacity to roll with it really determines if you're going to succeed or not. Yeah.
Who between you and your wife, Beryn, who is the one that deals with the issues? Did you guys task specific things to each other? Did you both do it together?
She was really good with the bookkeeping and stuff. I was I was good with sales. So, I go speak to people and be the front on doing events. And she do a lot of the back-end management. And she still manages our team.
She's the
far
CEO.
More than I do. She's the CEO, yeah.
How did you guys choose who would be CEO?
No, it was just obvious. Okay. She was better at it.
Okay.
So I'm really good at inspiring people, but she's really good at keeping all the structures together and having an eye on the ball. So I was like, you do that. You're much better at it than me.
Right.
So, when you start, you do everything.
Yeah.
So I was designing labels and writing books for, our events. And so we each had areas that we focused on, but we did everything. And then as you grow, there's that moment where you're like, okay, we need help. So let's hire someone. And then we were like, let's hire a friend, because friends are there to help you.
So you hired friends?
Yeah, totally. Which is always potentially challenging. Also, we don't have money to pay proper salaries necessarily. So it's come and work part-time and do a little bit of this and that. Basically your job description is to answer the phone and help out, And so the early stage was very much with our growth curve, just hiring wherever we had as friends. We didn't advertise or anything and hope for the best. And, sometimes it worked out. I mean, our current staff, many of them have been there more than 10 years, 15 years, I think over 100 years combined.
Wow.
So we're good retention for people, but we also made a lot of mistakes with hiring people.
What were some of the mistakes you made?
Probably the main one is incubating people. So people often came to events who were super inspired by what we were doing, and they wanted to learn more, and they wanted to like just be around us and be in our space. And then we would help train them and show them how to make recipes, and then they would work, and then they go off and do their own thing. So start like competitor type stuff, you know, doing their own thing. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also happened to us in business with many different brands in Cape Town and South Africa. They initially would buy from us, come to my events, be inspired, and then find their own direct sourcing, you know, which I understand because you need to get as low margin or highest margin as possible.
When it comes to the competitiveness of the superfood industry in South Africa, how extreme would you say that is?
Well, it's a tiny industry. So what I found is particularly the bigger guys, when they come on board and they go, oh, we want our own superfoods brand. I'm like, okay, go for it. Yeah. And then within months, maybe years, they go, oh, it's not very big. I'm like, no, it's not very big. It's a very small niche.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the States, it's a totally different story there.
Yeah, it's massive.
More disposable income, just, yeah, you know, our business was based on our training and education, sharing this message with people, focusing on health and wellness, you know. People knew about us directly, you know, and then, I mean, this is also the way commerce works. You have quality, and then it moves to quantity, and then it moves back to quality, and that's the flow of it. So, yeah, we've seen, and we also always have been focused on certified organic because we don't want to poison people, and it's very easy to buy goji berries from China that have like 20 to 30 pesticides. I mean, I've tested other brands of goji berries, and some of the pesticides are banned in Europe, and they're covered with them. So, and we've had to return quite a lot of shipments over the years.
So you third-party test your
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, we have multiple types of tests we do now to make sure there's heavy metals, pesticides, beta-glucans in mushrooms. We've just found over the years that we can't just go on a COA, certificate of analysis, because people lie.
Is there anything like for us as consumers when we go to a, you know, wellness warehouse and we want to purchase something healthy that we can look out for?
The first thing I start on my courses is label reading. You've got to read labels and you got to see what's in there, you know. If there's weird E numbers and stuff, and stay away from it, obviously. Chemical vitamins, I'm not a great fan of, you know. I mean, they still sell cyanocobalamin as a vitamin B12, which is cyanide. So that's not so good for you. And then, you know, for me, organic really provides you a level of safety. So if it's not certified organic, then you probably will be getting some level of pesticide residue. And it never made sense to me that if you want to be healthy and you're choosing to buy this because it's going to support your health, that you get something that's non-organic because it's risky. And call the people up. You know, who's the company? Phone them, ask them, get their story. You know, have a personal direct relationship with them if you can. Yeah. And in South Africa, we don't have our own organic standard, so it's also tricky. Yeah. So if I'm not certified organic as a company, I can call my stuff organic, even if it isn't. And it's changing a little bit now. There's new legislation where they're trying to make it that you have to prove it's organic if it's organic.
Yeah, like if you say on the label, organic, yeah. Because on your products, it says certified. What does it say exactly?
Certified organic.
Yeah, organic EU or something.
EU. So there's American, European, and Japanese. Those are the main certifying bodies in the world. And so we choose Europe because it's one of the most stringent.
Okay.
More than America.
Yeah, it's a super popular label. Like when you go to Germany, for example.
Oh, yeah, everything will be BO.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a little leaf with the stars.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That means it's EU certified.
Yes. Yeah. And so does that mean you have to basically send your products to or do they have independent testers? Like do you have to send it to them to get it?
So each of our suppliers has got a major audit trail of all the inputs. Anything they use on the crop, processing of the crop, warehousing, storage, you name it. Major. And we have a 2, sometimes 3-day audit every year where all of our books are looked at. All the numbers have to make sense. What you've imported, what you've sold, storage, contract packers, everything. So it's expensive. You know, I think it's like 40 or 50 grand a year now just to have the certification.
The South African policies in terms of importation, like how strict is that? Because I know in the nutraceutical market, it's like pretty intense. Like there's one company who, one of their shipments got contained and they destroyed it, I think. It's like 3 million rand shipment.
Yeah.
Is it the same in the superfood? Do they categorize the industries the same?
Well, we're lucky that we've always focused on food. So even though the foods are nutrient dense, they're still foods. Dried fruit and nuts. And I did that intentionally to like stay under the radar, because as soon as you get into nutraceutics and medicines, it's a whole different story. And yeah, there's some very shady stuff that happens there. And I initially learned about it in the UK and in the States, where regulatory bodies are basically an arm of big pharma, and they don't want nutraceuticals, and or they want to own it. So there's an intentional push against it. And especially in this country, since SAPRA came about, which is like a Gates-funded organization, its intention is just to make it absolutely impossible for anyone to sell potent nutraceuticals.
And because they're selling it themselves? Or?
Either they're selling it or they just don't want it available, because they only want you to have access to medicine. Yeah, so for them it's medicine or it's nothing. Yeah, so they make life hard. Yeah, so we've had a few issues when we have Port Health detain product and things like tablets, like we bring in spirulina tablets. Yeah. So they say like, oh, this is a medicine, you have to prove it's a medicine. And now to get SAPRA approval, that's like millions of rands just to get the stamp. And then we'd have to explain it's 100% spirulina, it's got nothing else in it, it's just in that shape, but they now want to own the shape too. And they even want to own capsuling. So you'd have to be registered as a medicine provider to be able to offer capsules. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but this is the direction they want it to go in. Yeah.
To avoid that, is that why you guys put it in powder form?
No, I love powders. Like I'm always about tasting and having like a visceral experience of it. So the only reason I use capsules in our products is because people want capsules. Okay. Yeah, for many years we refused capsules. I was like, it must be powders. Everyone's got to taste it. And then I just got pushback from customers and suppliers going, come on, you got to put this in a capsule. So we started and people want it that way.
So you want to taste what you're putting into your body and like make it an experience, whereas a lot of people just want to get the health benefits.
Yeah, well, it's information, right? Your mouth has sensors in it that as soon as it's in your mouth, your body's already reading it, telling you what it is, changing enzymes. I mean, even your fingers excrete enzymes. So the whole system of holding and eating and chewing is designed to help you utilize and digest it effectively. And having a capsule, it just vanishes and then it appears in your stomach. And so there's this whole like blackout of information. And I've definitely found over the years that things are less effective when you consume them as a capsule. Yeah.
Okay, so you would recommend rather either eating it or drinking it in powder format?
Exactly.
How do you take your spirulina? Like, do you just take a spoon and put it in your mouth? Or
no, I'll blend it in a smoothie usually. Okay. Yeah, I also don't mind tablets because they dissolve very quickly. And I make sure to suck on the tablets so that, I'm getting the imprint straight away. Yeah. I mean, early on, my kids thought spirulina was what sweets are because that's all they ever got to chew on.
Interesting.
It makes it sound really bad.
So you would give them spirulina
tablets
as a treat.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, if they don't know any different, I mean, that's...
Absolutely.
It's fine, no? Yeah. To them, if they enjoy it, it's good.
Yeah.
For kids, what would you recommend? Like for children, for parents listening who want to keep their children healthy, what would you recommend they give them?
Kids do what you do. Yeah, parents don't want to hear it, but kids do what you do. They are designed to absorb your entire life in 7 years. Like from 0 to 7, a child's mind is in a hypnagogic state. It's hypnotized to absorb everything without judgment, without filters. So it all goes in every last little shred. And then from 7, the prefrontal cortex starts coming on and it starts to be able to rationalize. She starts being able to rationalize and go, okay, this is what I've learned, and make it a life for themselves. So the first 7 years is your window to basically eat as healthy as you can in your life. And that's what they get. And I get it's tricky when kids go to school and their friends are eating stuff and they get exposed to other things. That's why I'd recommend like try and delay schooling as far as possible so that first 7 years you have a solid foundation in healthy habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not so much about what they eat. It's just real natural food, organic food, whole food, home cooked food.
But surely there are certain things that you give to your children that you feel they could not do without. Like what are those things? Like spirulina, for example, you give them spirulina?
Not anymore. They don't really have it much anymore.
But back in the day.
So like I'd make a green juice. I really like getting them into making green vegetable juice. Mm-hmm. So it's like a family process. We go in the garden, we pick the green leaves and we juice together and they drink green juice. So I think getting in phytonutrients like that is a great way of doing it. If you don't have time to actually freshly juice the greens, then use a green powder supplement and you mix that with a bit of apple juice because greens is definitely important for them as they grow. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's something lacking in children's diets?
Definitely. Most kids won't go near greens. They don't. Most kids won't eat bitter things. So they overdevelop their sweet initially. I mean, you look at any kid's formula, even baby formulas, it's like sugar, sugar, sugar. So they get them hooked on crack straight away, and then their bitter, it's too strong. They won't go near it. So allowing kids' sweet tooth to like be delayed.
So it's the bitterness of the food that puts the kids off, actually.
For sure, because of the sweet.
Because of the sweets, yeah. So
if you do reduced sugar, low sweet, then they're happier with the bitter. They can manage it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's that thing, you know, children don't like vegetables.
Yeah.
It's not the vegetable, it's the fact that it's bitter, and in comparison to the sweet they're used to,
exactly,
they don't like it.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, growing up, I had like Pronutro, Cocoa Pops. This stuff's riddled with sugar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pronutro, I mean, a bit of sugar, but at least back then it wasn't GMO. Now it's all GMO too. So on the sugar side, I mean, they did a research study years ago where they had like a granny or something giving the child sweets, sugary sweets, and breastfeeding child. And then they'd have the mother walk in the room, and they'd have the granny walk in the room, and the mother's breastfeeding the child. The child would track the granny 100%, wouldn't even look at the mother. Because that sugar is like drugs.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so strong.
Man.
So good meaning, you know, I'll give you a sweet, and major consequences to the brain. Yeah.
When was the last time you had sugar or ate sugar?
Well, I mean, refined sugar I haven't had for decades. I mean, yeah, if I'm gonna have something sweet, it's honey. I'm a beekeeper. I love bees. But I'll have some coconut sugar. You know, less processing is better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically a mineral trade-out. So healthy food is high mineral, low sugar. Then you get like all sugar, no minerals, which is refined empty calorie carbohydrates. And that's unhealthy. And then you got the scale in between. So it's a balance between minerals and sugar. Your pancreas has to have minerals to break sugar down, to release all the stuff, to mop the sugar up. So if you don't have a mineral-rich diet, your pancreas is going to suck minerals out of your teeth and your bones, and that's why you eventually get like holes in your teeth. It's not the sugar that's directly affecting it. It's your body leaching minerals out of your tooth in order to manage the sugar in your bloodstream. Yeah. And so my initial thing is always up the mineral density, which is where superfoods come in, because they're very mineral-dense foods. Yeah, it's not so much about fats, carbs, or protein. It's mineral density. And most processed food, most supermarket food, you know, commercially grown food is very low in minerals because they use only 3 to grow them. You know?
For your children, have they ever had refined sugar?
I don't think so.
You know, it'd be very interesting to see like if you gave them refined sugar and how that would affect them, because they probably wouldn't like it.
Well, I mean, we've gone to birthday parties with friends and they just say no. Like they get offered. I didn't say anything. I'm curious. Are they going to take it or not?
Yeah.
And they just say no thanks. Because I've told them, you know, what's going on with food, what's going on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, they also have strong metabolic flexibility because of their mineral dense diet. So I don't think they'd have necessarily a major negative effect from it. But I don't know.
Like a sugar rush, because like people who don't drink coffee then have one, they, you know, buzz. Yeah, if I could go back in time and speak to my parents, I would say the same thing. I'd be like, please, well, don't give me refined sugar, like Cocoa Pops, all that kind of stuff. You know, now in hindsight, I'm like, I won't do the same when I have children.
No, most parents have a really hard time trying to feed their kids well. You know, they're like, well, so I use the Cocoa Pops because at least they eat something.
And it's easy. You just put milk in it.
Because everyone's busy. You got to get to work. Like, you don't have time. So, I mean, there's a deep cultural issue at play that people don't even have the time to care for their children effectively. I mean, that's, a whole other conversation. Like, how is it we've set up a society like this, you know, that runs on sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, basically. I mean, I think that the way, like, the world works right now just disconnects people in a huge way from everything that has meaning, you know, real human connection. I think industrialized schooling, which is what most of us received, is designed to make you not ask questions. It's designed to ask you not to question your reality. Fundamentally, don't question your teachers, don't question the process, just do what's required, or you'll be assaulted in some way, either physically or emotionally or mentally, or all of it. And so you kind of get blasted out of the system just going, I will comply. Yeah,
school was tough for me, man. I got diagnosed with ADHD from like a young kid. And I used to hate sitting still and just listening for hours on end. I would literally get in trouble because I couldn't sit still. But I'm like 9 years old.
I know, it's insane, right? 9-year-olds should be running around all over the place. Yeah.
My goodness. And
now they're just drug kids.
they actually wanted to put me on Ritalin at that age. Thank you, Mom. But she said no.
Okay, amazing.
For whatever reasons. I'm sure she did her research, but obviously I would have just been put on it. Like, just because I can't sit still, you know. So you don't agree with Ritalin whatsoever?
No, goodness, no. There's nothing wrong with kids that want to run around.
Yeah.
There's something seriously wrong with industrialized schooling. Yeah. I mean, it's been shown to reduce intelligence radically. Like there was a study done on the genius level. They had a whole bunch of markers, and basically young kids all scored high on genius level. And by the time they were out of school, only like 2 or 3% scored high. So no, it's designed to make people stupid.
Coming back to your business, so when it comes to the e-commerce, when did that start? Like when did you realize, okay, now it's time to build a website again? Did you always have your website regardless?
Yeah, look, I designed a very basic website initially, just as a leaflet online for people to see our products and learn about what we were doing. And then, I mean, I think we've rebuilt our website 5 or 6 times over the years. You know, we'd have someone come on a course who's like, hey, I'm a web developer, I can make you an e-commerce site. And then you'd spend way more money than you'd want to. And then it would last a year or two and the thing would be broken. And then you'd have to do it again. So that's been one of my learnings.
E-commerce sites need a lot of maintenance. They it's not with just basic landing pages where there's no transaction taking place. You can just have the same thing for many, many years. But if people are actually paying, it needs to be maintained. And
our marketing manager manages all of that. And we just literally 3 months ago relaunched our website on Shopify.
Yeah, Shopify is amazing. A good one.
Yeah, stable, fast, works well.
Yeah. So. What percentage of your sales come through your e-commerce site versus like wholesale distributors, like Wellness Wales?
10%.
Come through your website?
Yeah.
And the 90% through
wholesale clients.
Really?
Yeah.
And is that okay for you? Or are you trying to
we have an intention to increase that. But we've just found over the years that people like walking into the shop and buying product.
And when COVID hit, did you guys experience a big drop in sales or a big boost because everyone's trying to be healthy?
No, it definitely didn't grow during that SIO process. But it was definitely the most difficult time in our business because we had to retrench almost half our staff, which was hard. You know, people that have been with us for a while. We just hired a new marketing manager at that point who we couldn't afford. So running through retrenchment processes was very difficult. Yeah, it's probably the worst business experience to date is having to let people go in a time that like they don't know what they're going to find because everything shut down. But we had to, otherwise we wouldn't survive. So we had to like cut overheads radically.
So can you talk me through that process? So your accountant came to you and they said, look, this is the numbers we're doing now.
No, they didn't even have to. I mean, I manage those numbers. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at it going, these are expenses. And we have no line of sight if we're going to sell any product next month because the world's on lockdown. So, and look, there was government support in terms of salaries. They did a little bit of support over time, but we had to like pull back radically, just minimize to zero all our expenses as fast as possible. Yeah.
And then you met with your employees. How many people did you have to let go?
It was about 7 people.
And how many people in total do you have working for you?
No, we got about 9.
9, okay.
Yeah.
But this is back then, hey? Yeah. Can you employ them again now that...
Well, what we also realized in the process is that, you know, as a business grows, like we had been growing with our Superfoods brand. And so we were employing more and more people. But even before COVID, Superfoods started dipping and we started losing income. And so we saw our peak in like, I don't know, was it 2016, 2017? And then just every year we were dropping 10%, really? 10%. Yeah, because, you know, the cheaper varieties were coming. People were jumping on.
It's a competition.
A major competition.
Interesting.
And so we were seeing erosion of sales consistently. And so a lot of our expenses we actually couldn't afford anymore. So if it wasn't for COVID, like we probably would have been bankrupt. Yeah, we wouldn't have survived. So COVID was like an amazing opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves.
And how did you do that?
So we cleaned house. We looked at what we absolutely needed and didn't need. So trimmed down. And then we pivoted on our product range. So we moved into what I call potent plants. So they're things that I'd used for years prior. They're the more like medicinal, potent, superfood type thing. So superfood is more nutritional. It's closer to food than supplements, whereas potent plants are closer to supplements and medicine than food. So they're things like, reishi, like the mushrooms, or ashwagandha, that kind of stuff. And I'd always wanted it in my range, but I couldn't find an organic source because there wasn't the market for it. And it was during that time that in the States, there was quite a big explosion of potent plants in organic sourcing. So we managed to get organic supplies. And that whole new range is like more than half our business now.
What would you say is like right now your top seller, like out of everything?
It's the mushrooms, particularly lion's mane. Yeah, matcha is also really popular at the moment. And I mean, we have a really high quality ceremonial grade certified organic matcha that's like cheaper than most.
But you've always had that as well.
No, also started 3 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, new.
Okay.
That entire range, potent plants, didn't exist before COVID. Yeah.
When it comes to, why are you only focusing on South Africa? Why are you not shipping overseas, bringing your brand overseas?
Yeah, I mean, we've wanted to for years, but it's a big step to be able to take your brand overseas. Like, there's a lot of funding required. We're self-funded. So if our growth is too steep, then we can't maintain stock levels. So it's always that balance. We use bank overdraft facilities, and that comes with all its own expensive issues. And we've had potential of investors over the years, but investors look at bottom lines and KPIs and reduce your business to numbers, and it just never made sense to us, and losing control of your business, that kind of stuff. So we potentially next year are going to start doing a little bit of work, going to trade shows overseas to see if there's possibility. But I mean, for sure, our range, apparently it's one of a kind worldwide, our branding and our range. So it should be able to be overseas.
I think it would sell really good overseas.
Yeah. So I'd love to take it there.
Yeah. Which country would you look at?
Well, in the States, you've got like the Bay Area. So, that's where most of the progressive perspective on food would be. We've done a bit of trade show scouting. Germany has the biggest organic trade show in the world, Biofach. I've been a few times. I might go again next year. You see, the thing is, you want to start in another country, you got to be there.
Why?
Well, it's your energy, unless you have a partner. So if there's someone there that goes, hey, I love your stuff, I'd like to have it here, well, then it's a business partner, and you set a new structure up. But if we want to do it, we got to do it.
How would you get your products? Like, how would you store your products in the other countries?
What's nice about the first world is that everything is outsourced. Everything.
So you've heard of ShipBob?
Yeah, all that stuff. You don't have to have an office. Everything's done. You just get quotes for various. I mean, even the sourcing of the product is all available there. Yeah, multiple suppliers, all high standard, quality assured. So it's not like it's hard to launch something there, but to create the markets, to get into the markets.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like your brand is, it's when you think of like organic, right? Like something that's very minimalist. There's no you're not trying to sell you're just supplying the product in its rawest form. Like when I think Soaring Free Superfoods and I think about your product and I visualize the product in my mind, it's like one of the few brands that are going that route today, at least.
Okay.
And I think that's a very good thing because you stand out that way, right? Everyone else is like trying to make it this high tech, modern age, new performance enhancing stuff, superfoods. But I think you're going like the old school route, which I think is important, especially going into 2025. And I'm talking about South Africa's market. I'm wondering how it would be overseas, but I get the feeling there it's even more intense.
Sure.
It's probably even more modern. So I feel like you guys would do pretty good. I feel like they would want it there.
Well, also I've really been inspired by South African medicinals, which very esoteric, very few people know about them. So over the course of this year, I'm doing a lot of new product development using South African herbs, things like scaletium, cancer bush, that kind of stuff. So starting to create blends and mixes that are supportive in various like brain health or sleep or,
That is local to
that's
South
got
Africa.
a local base. Yeah, I can't do it
that's
all
cool.
local because our medicinals are strong. But yeah, so that's going to be a focus for us over the next few years, is
Yeah.
including more local stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what that is, by the way?
No, what root is that?
That's a resurrection plant.
Okay, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So have you heard of resurrection plants before?
Years ago, but like I'm rusty.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So I had a professor, Jill Farrant, on.
Okay.
And she's basically dedicated her life to resurrection plants. And essentially, these are plants that can go without water for very, very long, like up to years. And then you just sprinkle a little bit of water on them and they come back to life. So they could be completely dead and they come back to life. And she's been studying them. And apparently, they've got some of the highest concentrations of antioxidants she's ever seen in her life's work of
Sure.
like 30, 40 years or so. So I'm wondering if that could also be potentially, I've got some tea as well, which I can
Okay.
give you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love learning new things.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that's a cool route forward is, making local stuff and putting it out there. People want that. Like rooibos tea, for example, you just don't get it overseas. But you said our stuff is strong. Like, what do you mean by
Yeah, all
that?
our medicinal herbs, they're potent.
In what regard?
Super bitter. You got to have them in capsules. I mean, scaletium is incredible. And if you have enough, you trip. It's like,
Really?
It's drugs. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What other medicinal herbs do we get you that's super potent that can make you trip?
Well, psychotropics, that's a little bit more tricky. I mean, you got like Iboga, which is African, but not necessarily South African. Yeah. Very,
Ibogaine, right?
yeah, very strong African teacher.
Yeah. Have
Makes
you had
sense.
that before?
Yes.
What's it like?
It's very long, very deep, very full on. You get your ass handed to you a lot repeatedly. Just, I mean, psychedelic work is always in some way death work. You go through a process of death and rebirth. It's your ego that gets shattered and then put back together again. So, a lot of indigenous cultures used the ceremony as an experience of death before death to prepare you of letting go of your ego, of your identity. Iboga does it in a very specific way. I mean, this is obviously personal. Many people may have different experiences, but it's like you run through your own history. Yeah, major points that were intense and traumatic for you.
Really?
To see how they've impacted you. And then
Like we're going back in time to like when you're 3 years old. Can you?
yeah, I've had full recapitulations of like 2 in a cot.
Really?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Full clarity on it, seeing how that affected the rest of my life. Yeah, so very profound teacher on that level.
So in that moment, would you actually be seeing out your eyes as a 2-year-old
No.
in the cot? Like,
Oh yeah, no, I mean, my eyes are closed, but like I'm in the cot and I'm fully feeling the terror
Right.
of that experience.
I see.
Yeah, as though I'm there. Yeah, so it's very intense.
huh.
Yeah. And then like 2 hours of just death as a topic. Like, how about you dying in all, it's kind of like a full past life regression of all the possible ways you could and have and maybe will still die. And then you're like, when you think you can't take anymore, it's like, well, what about all the people you love? What does that look like? And then that carries on for another, who knows how long, eternity. And then, well, what about like your whole culture, your whole society, your whole planet? No, it's very intense.
Jeez. And does it feel like the trip lasts forever? Like
yeah,
an
no, it's one of the
eternity?
longest psychedelics. It's like 10 to 12 hours you're in there.
Sure, but
Yeah.
that's in reality. But like in your trip, how does it feel like an eternity?
Yes, definitely, because time is kind of disrupted radically.
Right.
So the space that you experience is an eternity.
Man,
And
that sounds...
I never recommend any of the stuff. You have to be called.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's heavy work.
got you.
Yeah.
If you could only eat 3 superfoods for the rest of your life, starting today, what would they be?
Hemp seeds.
Hemp seeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love hemp seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an easy, smooth protein. All your essential amino acids, all your fatty acids. Yeah, no enzyme inhibitors like other nuts. So hemp seeds would be a big one.
Okay, hemp seeds.
Then I'd have to go for one of the mushrooms, something like reishi. It's just so tonifying to all the different bodies.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
So like your physical, emotional, and your mental bodies. In Chinese medicine, they consider reishi like a food that's capable of replenishing all of your qi and shen. So it's good for the spirit and the body. So it's more of like a spiritual food.
Okay.
Reishi.
Got you.
Yeah.
And the third one?
I'd have to go with cacao, chocolate.
I would have thought reishi and cacao maybe, but I wouldn't have guessed hemp seed. That's a surprising one.
The cannabis plant is designed for people. I mean, 5 points on the leaf. It's when I did my research for our Magic of Superfoods book, it was the one with the longest history of human use, 5,000 years. You know, if there's humans, there's cannabis. Yeah, because I mean, you can use it for so many different things.
Right, but you're not talking about like THC now. You're talking about like the actual plant.
I mean, THC has its place too, but I mean, the plant's fiber for clothes, for all sorts of things, concrete. Yeah. The leaf itself is one of the most nutrient-dense greens of any green. It's 20 times the nutritional value of kale. And it also doesn't have the phytic acid and the enzyme inhibitors, so you can eat it like salad. So I make pesto, is my favorite way of using hemp leaves. So I've got a number of pesto recipes online. But yeah, cannabis leaf pesto. It's delicious.
Interesting.
Yeah, super nutritious. Yeah, there are guys in the States that are using cannabis leaf juice to cure cancer. Yeah.
Jeez, like it.
Yeah, so that's the leaf. And then you got the seed, which is complete protein, all your essential aminos.
That's the hemp seed.
Yeah.
And with the leaf, can you pluck it off and eat it raw?
Definitely. Yeah, even psychoactive cannabis, you can eat the leaf raw because the THC has to be decarboxylated through a heating process. Yeah, so raw, straight off the leaf, you shouldn't get high. I say shouldn't. Some people are just very sensitive to cannabinoids, and so they'll feel a little something. But yeah, I've even eaten whole heads raw. It's not psychoactive.
Yeah. With the THC on it.
Yeah, lots. Crystals all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, they say you need to heat it up in order for it to...
Exactly.
Yeah, make an effect. Would you say that's more healthy, though, than the leaf itself?
Well, cannabinoids are also known as terpenes, and terpenes sounds kind of like turpentine, and the terpenes dissolve stuff in your body. So they help the detoxification process. I mean, they manage like hundreds of other processes in the body. I mean, you've got an endocannabinoid system. Like, it's one of the oldest parts of your body. It's been around for like, who knows how long the human body's been around for, but a long time. And it manages the movement of cannabinoids. Like, you're designed to be able to manage them. And they do tons of things. So,
like what?
I think they're an essential nutrient on every level. How your brain works, how your digestive function works.
On the note of work-life balance, how do you separate the two?
Initially in business, it was no balance. It was just work your ass off all the time. Like, yeah. And I mean, I think that's part of the process. You want to start your own business, like, and I see this with people who go, "Oh, I'm just going to start my own business because you look like you just have it all made." I'm like, cool. Tell me how that's going in a year from now. Because there's no, "Oh, I'm done now. I can go home and chill." It's like, there's no one else who's going to do it. You got to do it. And whatever it is, you do it until it's done. So first 10 years was just like every day, putting it out, no weekends, you know. I mean, I still have some fun, obviously, but it's full on. And all the responsibility rests on you. It's not like you can go, "Oh, someone else's responsibility." It's all on you. So, yeah, and it's an intense growth journey, business. Over the years, how have I dealt with it? I suppose we just got good at employing people that do things better than us. So I recognize that I only want someone working for me who's going to do that job better than I can do it, because otherwise I should do it. You know, so learning to let go of certain things for other people to manage. Also having a routine where you allow yourself process, exercise to be able to stay present and focused. So like a meditation practice, for example. Some kind of exercise practice. I mean, I'm also in health. So my whole thing initially, and still is, like, what are all the aspects of your health? And I practice that anyway. So although I'd work, you know, silly hours, I would still manage to go for walks in the forest or just make it important enough.
Because
Yeah.
it seems like it's almost counterintuitive, like business and then what you stand for as a human. Like the
Yeah.
two, I think, don't usually
Go together for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have that sort of conflict, especially in the beginning? Because
Not right at the beginning. In the beginning, we were doing a lot of traveling and workshops and courses. And so I really love that environment, the dynamism. You know, I'm traveling, I'm presenting, I'm like in that flow. It's sitting in an office in front of a computer. Like that's the killer. Yeah. So finding ways to, because sitting is not good for the body, clearly. Staring at a screen all day is also not good. So if there was an aspect of business that was the hardest for me, it was that. You know, so finding ways of spending less time on my butt and less time staring at a screen. It was those two things primarily.
And what about your wife? Because like you guys obviously live together.
Yeah.
And you're in business together.
Yeah. So very challenging for our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very challenging because business comes with this responsibility. So it's very serious. So we have had some fun, like creating new stuff. But for the most part, it's just like, shit, we got a deadline, or how are we going to manage this issue? Or so, yeah, for quite a while, it was very tough for us in our relationship. But what doesn't kill you makes you grow. And, you know, now we like in an incredible space. So we grew a lot together through that process. Yeah.
How did you separate the two, or did you separate the two?
It was just sticking with it, you know, sticking with our business and hiring people and working with those people, and also creating a business where whoever works for us have a life balance too. So like we have better hours, people leave at 4, early on a Friday, people can work from home, you know, so just finding ways that they can also have a life work balance. And then delegating responsibility, you know, focusing on what we want to. Yeah. Busy as a trap. Like, oh, how have you been? I've been busy. And I shit, everyone's busy. Is that what you want to be doing? Like, because you can be a hamster on a wheel just doing, because if you don't do, then you don't have value. And so I detox that deeply by moving out to our farm, you know, just getting there and going like, it's okay to be. You know, I don't have to be like running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And that took a few years of detoxing, for sure.
To get back to a state where you don't feel uncomfortable in
Exactly.
that space.
And a state where what I choose to do is what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of my early mentors said, when every day of work is play, you'll never have to work another day. And it's lovely. Initially, you do it all, and it often doesn't feel like play. But you can grow in what you're doing, if that's your intention, where you can do the stuff you really enjoy doing, and the stuff you don't enjoy, there's other people who'd love to do it. So delegate. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
It seems like quite hard to do though, especially in the beginning of a business.
No, that's why I said the first 10 years was just pushing
around.
Yeah.
Is there anything, if you went back in time, that you would do differently, like around this topic?
Sure. So hard to know because it's all
you're
perfect.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not something I ruminate about. I'm very much in the like, everything is perfect. The universe works. And it's just a choice. You know, I believe there's only one disease in humans.
That is?
Being a victim consciousness. It's the only disease. Because you got a story running in your head about how you're not worthy or not good enough or a victim of some circumstance. And while you believe it, you are. Because, you know, your outer world is in some way an outpicturing of your internal process and mind and thoughts and story you tell yourself, you know. And so, you know, I'm an NLP practitioner too. Well, not practicing, but I've studied NLP. And the intense effect that our minds and the stories we tell have on our lives, you know, it's huge. Yeah.
How big would you say it is?
It's like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, the Matrix, all the letters, that's the world. The world is made by language. Like, language holds it together. The story you tell yourself in your mind about what the world is what the world is. So if you believe that you are a victim, you're a victim.
And how do you fight against that story that you tell yourself?
I don't think you can fight against it. I think it's a matter of a process of slowly accepting yourself for who you are, accepting the experiences you've had in life as necessary for your own growth and development, accepting and eventually maybe learning to love yourself for who you are, for what you are, for where you are. You know, it's only in self-acceptance that you can reach a place of going, okay, everything's perfect, everything's cool.
Do you feel like when you were younger, let's say 25, that you were struggling with this?
Definitely. I mean, I was lucky because I learned about self-development early on, and I was a course junkie. So I went on many different courses and many processes and workshops related to like, okay, what is your trauma? And let's look at what that stuff is. Relationships, workshops, anything like that. So,
but why?
You do the work.
Why
I just have this compulsion, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
But was there any reason that you can think of that why were you compelled to go down that path?
Sure. I mean, I didn't necessarily suffer from a traumatic childhood, so I had no like particular reason to like seek assistance. I've just always felt a seeker. Yeah. And that was part of like just accepting who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look, most people are trying to be somebody else because society has this image of what correct and right and perfect is. And so we're all aiming for this nebulous thing that never will exist and never has existed, And so getting real about who you are in your life. And I studied shamanism for over a decade, and that taught me a lot about human awareness and perception. And the only thing there is know thyself.
And how, if someone wants to get to know thyself, how would they do that?
I mean, my initial journey into it was language. So start with, what is it you say about yourself every day? Write a diary.
In your mind.
In your mind, yeah.
Mm.
Catch yourself every hour and go, what is my thinking like? Was my thinking positive? Was my thinking negative? You can just do a plus minus and run it every hour through the day and see what you end up with. The stat is that a child growing up, for every positive input they get from the people in the environment, they have 1,250 negatives. So I will just excuse it. Like, don't do that. That's bad. All the way through. So if your own internal process is going, you're a problem, well, then you're a problem. And you're always looking for something to save you, to help you, to make you better, when it's never going to come from outside.
So you think a good place to start is just like capturing that internal dialogue? It's like, I can imagine it's a lot of work, but it would be pretty interesting.
That's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the journey into self.
Yeah. End of the day, you have like this list of your own thoughts.
It's one technique. I mean, there are potentially thousands, Recapitulation is profound. Looking back at your life and going, what are some of the most intense events in my life? Let me relive those and that's what psychotherapy usually tries to do. See them for what they are, now as an adult. Sure. Meditation, finding quiet, just quietening the mind. Because the monkey mind is a monkey. It's going to run and run and run. And like everyone thinks, there's value in this constant dialogue. And it's like, no, there really isn't. Like if you've got a problem, you solve it. Get on.
Do you feel like with age, it's gotten easier? This concept we're talking about right now?
I don't know about age. With work, it's gotten easier.
So, okay.
Yeah. I think with age, it becomes easier to accept wherever you're at. So whether that's like being stuck in hatred becomes easier to accept.
And obviously you could be 50 years old now, 60 years old now, but without doing the work doesn't mean you're going to be any different than you were when you were 30.
Yeah.
So you have to put in the work.
For sure.
But I wonder, as people get older, do they completely... Because I still have these introspective moments now where I look at myself and I try and understand why I react in certain ways and think the way I do. And I'm wondering, like, let's say I don't put in the work and 10 years from now, am I still going to be questioning those things? Or does it quieten down more and more and more and more?
Yeah, I'm not so sure I could answer that. It's going to be your journey and your process.
Got you.
I mean, ayahuasca was amazing for me in that, just deep, profound processes. Sacred plants in general have just been amazing as teachers for me.
Yeah, marijuana is pretty good with that as well.
Absolutely, if you can do something with it. If it becomes habitual, then it's just going to spaz you out. But the inspiration is profound. And that goes for any sacred plant. You can go on a ceremony, you can get beautiful visions, you can learn about yourself, and if you just go back to your normal life, it means nothing.
You like make use of that state of mind that you're in.
Practically. You have a routine. What are you going to do to change your routine to improve your life? And so I'm very much about like you don't have to change your life radically. 1% change now in 10 or 15 or 20 years is a totally different space. So it's like small changes now make a lot later on. And so what are those habits that support your health? And this is, everyone comes to the point of growth where they go, I feel like I'm worth looking after. Sounds insane that should even be a question, right? Mm-hmm. But like you reach a point where you're like, I am only damaging myself. So I'm going to choose to start looking after myself. And then you start asking about the food you eat, the media you consume, the actions you take in the world, and you start improving all of those little bits by little bits.
Coming back to the business topic, if someone was looking to start a business in a similar space to yours, what sort of advice would you give them? Is there anything that comes to mind that if it was you, if you could speak to yourself, what would you tell them?
Well, some of the greatest advice I got is that you should start a business in something you're passionate about. And that is a bit of a two-edged sword, because the business itself is going to be hectic managing the business. And so it might destroy your passion because you're going to be like, I don't want it anymore. But if it's something that you really love to do, it can also carry you through those times you're like, the business isn't going to make it, or I don't have the energy to carry on. And so for me, the passion I found in sharing health information and, teaching people to be healthy carried me through so much. And then also just getting the feedback. That would be the main thing that I could think of.
The feedback? What do you?
Yeah, when I get feedback from people on how like their life has changed for the better. And okay, you're doing you're making a difference in someone's life. That's very supportive. And then just to be aware that like, it's not going to be any easier than having a job. It's going to be much harder. So like getting it like straight from the beginning that like, you're not doing this because it's simpler. You might be doing it because you want freedom from a 9-to-5, which is beautiful and lovely. And also like you're going to work yourself. It's going to be hard.
Be prepared for that.
Be prepared.
Yeah. If you could go back in time,
I'd buy more Bitcoin.
And wouldn't we all? Eh?
I know.
God damn.
I paid 100 Rand for my first one.
100 Rand for your first Bitcoin.
My friend gave it to me. I gave him cash and he transferred it to me. I wish I'd kept it.
What was that one Bitcoin worth now?
1.3 million or something.
Lord, that's crazy. Yeah. If you could go back in time, besides buying Bitcoin, is there anything you would have, anything you would do differently?
Yeah, I don't stress so much about the small stuff. I remember just being super stressed a lot of the time. Like I'd run an event and we'd forget a few things at the office and I'd be like, fuck, we forgot the stuff. And I'd be all like worked up about it. I'd just be more like, dude, it's fine. No one's going to notice. It's totally cool. And if there's anything that I felt change over the years, it has been just more of an acceptance, Yeah. Don't sweat it. Like, it's cool. You don't like getting all like freaked out about it is not going to make it any better. Yeah.
I feel you, man.
Wow.
I feel you. Yeah. I was the same when I have a kite surfing school, still do, but I'm not running it anymore. But when I first started, man, I would stress about so many different things, but like it would really affect me,
For sure.
I mean, the stress didn't really change anything. Still got done. I changed. I was stressed. So,
but it's your experience of business.
Yeah.
Because initially it's like anything can kill your business.
Yeah.
Or you believe it can.
Yeah. You're just finding a solution after problem after problem after problem. But yeah. So I've got one last question for you. This one is coming from a guest who knew that you were coming on the show and they wanted to ask you something, which is, how important do you think mentorship is for a new entrepreneur?
Hugely, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't necessarily have a personal mentor, but I used a lot of resources, books, read a lot on business. Tony Robbins' workshops really helped. So, just educating yourself in your field as much as possible. Now it's podcasts. I mean, business podcasts, that can inspire you and make you be more efficient and get access to tools that back then never even existed. Yeah. So now I think mentorship in all aspects of your life is amazing. If someone has gone through the journey that you'd like to make, you'd shortcut so much of your process, by having a mentor.
How do you get one?
Search. Good old Google. Hey, I would like someone who's a coach in this area. And if you can't find in South Africa, find someone overseas.
It's like something coach or niche coach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or if there's someone who's doing something that you're inspired by, like just reach out to them. Hey, I love what you do. Like, could you mentor me in some way? And find a way of making it work.
So have you ever had a mentor in your life?
Various, but like more in the personal development space. Yeah, in the shamanic space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did they come into your life? Did you reach out to them?
And nutritional space.
Yes.
It was the flow of my life that allowed the grace for me to meet the people I needed to meet when I needed to meet them. Yeah.
Okay.
Which often is also okay, just to flow with. Yeah. And where there's a will, there's a way. So if you feel like you need support, just put that out there.
So you felt you needed support back then.
Yeah.
And you did the things that were necessary to get that support.
Yeah.
So you got to take action.
Oh, for sure. Massive action. Massive action. That's what I love about Tony Robbins' work too. All about action. And we used to run this little process in our courses where eventually you'd reach a point where you'd realize that the universe supports action, not thought. You know, so if you get into your head, you're dead. You got to get into your body and you got to move and you got to act. Yeah. And in starting a business, huge. You just got to get out there and do it. You know, you don't have it figured out at the beginning. You never do. You might end up doing something totally different in a year or two's time, but you just got to start.
What would starting look like? Just as an example. So
for us, it was like, we love superfoods. We want to sell it. How are we going to do it? I was like, let's walk on beaches and sell goji berry juice to people. So we just came up with a bunch of ideas of like who we could sell it to. And then we went to, let's go to a trance party because I like trance parties. And we got a stall and we had one there. And we went to the holistic lifestyle fair and we had a stall there. And then, you know, eventually we got into the biscuit mill.
That's a big deal as well, getting into the biscuit mill.
It had only just started, so we were lucky early on again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just like following your nose, getting into your inspiration and then taking that action. Yeah. And whatever that looks like in your industry, in your world, like you have a creative urge, how can you ground that creative urge and do something?
Would you recommend that people, when they start a business, to open up a business bank account from the get-go?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah. You want to separate that. It's no longer you. Like you want to create a business. Like if you're in a service thing where you're selling yourself, maybe. But I like the distinction. It's like a business is its own entity and it's treated like that in law for a reason. It has its own energy, its own vibration, its own birthday, you know, the first day of trading. And so you're creating this entity that can last beyond your lifetime.
Yeah. And I guess if you don't separate those two things,
then you find the work-life balance more tricky later on.
And you're not as committed anymore. Like you can always just pull out of it. You know, you've not actually laid a foundation. It's not been birthed yet. The business has not been birthed yet.
Sure.
It's still you.
Yeah.
Man, thank you very much, Peter, for joining
sure there's
me.
More stuff we should talk about.
There's so many things. Yes. I mean, please, if you have anything.
Mind.
You sure?
Let me think about it for a minute.
Yeah. What's happening on your side?
I really enjoy the idea that I learned many years ago that everyone has their own creative essence, and people are often scared in doing things. They're like, "Oh, someone else has done it," but no one's going to do it the way you're going to do it. And so, tapping into your own genius, your own creativity, even if you don't think it's genius, like bring your energy into the world, you know, and create something new. And I've also always perceived, you know, people are often scared of like the competition. Oh, someone's going to like take my... If you're truly in line with your creativity, everyone else is, there's more than enough for everybody, you know. Just that's the way I found it.
Do you think that a lot of people don't start their stuff because they're afraid of the competition?
Definitely. Afraid of everything. Afraid of succeeding. So how to deal with your fear, how to manage your fear, very good skills to learn. I read a great book early on called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which was great for us in our early business days.
Yeah. What does that mean exactly? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, so you'll have an idea of what you want to do in your life, and you'll feel that like tingling in your stomach, your solar plexus. It'll be like like, you know, you've just gone over a speed bump a bit fast, and this energy there, and you're like, oh no, let's put it down. And it's like that feeling is telling you there's some energy there. Move towards it. Take action there.
Is there ever a moment for you where you get that feeling and you don't go towards it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But what would be the reason you wouldn't go for it?
Maybe I'm busy, I'm doing other stuff, and I'll just be like, oh, move beyond it. Okay. Or maybe I'm like, it's too scary. I don't want to do it right now. Okay. Yeah. I mean, far less in my life now. Yeah. I've just over the years learned how to feel it and then go, okay, there's something here. Let me go there.
For me, this podcast, by the way, is one of those things. Because so I've been making businesses and like many different ones since a young age, since I was 19, actually. Started with a nut butter.
Okay.
Started many businesses, but I always felt like I shied away from like the public eye or like public speaking. Like I never wanted to be under the spotlight. And this podcast for me is essentially that. Like it's the opposite that I would never have thought that I would go in this direction, but that's exactly why I'm doing it.
Sure.
Because I'm like, let's push myself.
It's going to stretch you.
Yeah. I'm comfortable doing a business because I can like hide behind the business.
Okay.
But can't hide behind this. Like it's, so.
And that's going to be different for everyone. Your body will tell you. That's why I love somatic work of any kind, like embodiment. Your body lives in the now. So if you want to accurately perceive what's going on in your world, you have to be in your body. And most people are stuck in the future or the past, regretting things or being scared of things in depression or anxiety. And sure, maybe when you're a child shit happened, and you needed to disembody to feel safe. And then it just continues as an adult. So finding a way to like be okay with this moment and feel what's happening in this moment in your life and be really real about it. Yeah.
It's hard.
It's the hardest, man. Totally. I make it sound easy.
Yeah.
All the work is there.
Yeah. Work needs to be done, and it's practice, I guess.
Yep.
But I feel like, you need to, the more you try it, the more you do it, the more you feel it, I think it becomes easier and easier. It's like public speaking. Like you first start, it feels impossible. You're so nervous. Do you get nervous doing public speaking anymore?
Not so much.
A little bit, but not that bad.
Yeah.
Right. So you have like, you've got proof that you can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yes, thank you for joining me. I appreciate all your knowledge and also what you've done with your business. I've been buying it for a very, very long time now, your products.
Awesome. Thanks.
And pretty much, thank you for bringing it into the country, because I'm pretty sure if you didn't, would maybe one day I've gotten into the country, but who knows when.
This is the thing with ideas. If I hadn't done it, somebody else would.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how the world works. It's like there's a sea of ideas out there and then you feel it and you're like, ooh, that's inspiring. If you don't take action, someone else will.